Hey guys, welcome back again. Dave's Dimension, welcome back again for another video. Back again for a little something different. Now, as you guys know, I've mentioned that I got a major trip going on in the early part of June. So I figured, well, let's do a little bit of GB videoing. So, both the wife and I are part of a local Ghostbuster franchise here in Buffalo, New York. And a group of us are going down to New York City for a very cool, very awesome surprise. But you can't just go in your regular t-shirt and jeans. You gotta, especially if you're a Ghostbuster, it's kind of, it's a bit of a mecca, let's just say. It's a bit of a pilgrimage, a rite of passage for any Ghostbuster, where you gotta suit up. As you can see right there, the storage case has their both our suits, our gear, my pack, everything that a Ghostbuster really needs. Now, one thing a Ghostbuster needs is their PKE meter, okay? PKE for detecting ghosts, okay? Now, this is as best as you're going to get to a screen-accurate PKE if you're on a budget, guys, okay? Now, this happens to be one of the Walmart PKEs. They're pretty much almost identical to the Spirit PKEs. Of course, with this being May, there's no Spirit stores open around here, so and they currently do not have any that I can order online. So I picked this up a little while back. I meant to do some modding. Now, I don't have the time to take this apart, paint it, and get it ready by June 8th. Which is Ghostbusters Day in New York City. So, I'm going to do a quick thing. I'm going to get rid of this little chunky piece of belt clip. And we're going to use a tape measure holder. Now, you can get this just about at any hardware store, Ace Hardware, Home Depot, Lowe's, just about anywhere and everywhere. This is a nice heavy-duty tape measure case. Happens to be made by Husky. Now, if you're good, maybe you can do something to get rid of this. Some people will get a little piece of not vinyl, but like a pleather material to just kind of cover it up, and then try to have like a Ghostbusters or something like that embroidered on there. We really don't care. This is just for, this clips very easily on one of our belts, and there's no need to modify, because guess what? Fits in there perfectly, guys. It's not gonna slide out. You just kind of twist, comes out. Because the way the handles are, this happens to be a little bit more of a smooth, kind of curved handle. Technically, in the movie, it's a little bit more of a boxed handle that does extend outwards, and it has a slight little steep angle. So this is pretty close. Not 100% accurate, but pretty close. Now, the power switch is going to be right here. And you got two buttons. One is, it does basically like a little sample demonstration. The other one, you can turn on and off. Okay? There we go. Got the LEDs right here, LEDs right here. And you got a nice little LED that bounces around to show a pattern as if you're detecting it. Now, if I press that button again, it shuts it down. This one does not shut it down. It's just going to play the whole sequence. It's a nice little gadget. And as you guys can see, again, the arms extend out. We do have LEDs that will blink across. Now, there are some mods that can be done to these PKE meters. One mod is you can play around with if you're good with electronics and electrical wiring, you can play around with the light sequence to make it a little bit more accurate. Some people who are good with images and decals have actually made grid patterns as a sticker, a clear transparent, I should say, decal that goes over here, so it gives more of a gridded pattern. In case you guys are wondering, here's mine. And just to show you, I have a nice little gridded decal that one of my teammates actually had an extra of, and he was kind enough to hand off to me. Now, if you notice, big differences between these two. One, this is more of a matte plastic This one, this was basically the same exact one. I took the clip off so it leaves that little... Now, some people will Dremel this completely out. And there are 3D files that you can 3D print to basically conceal this and make this look nice and flush and more accurate. What I did with this was, I didn't paint it. Well, I did, but I didn't. What I did was, I took a little bit of silver argent, basically modeling paint, and I kind of wanted to give it more of a weathered look. And honestly, there are people who like that, and some that don't, because technically speaking, the original PKE wasn't metal. It was basically a plastic case, much like everything was back in the 80s. And a lot of people say that the weathering is not accurate, just like it's, some people will argue that weathering is not accurate on a proton pack or on the ecto goggles. It all depends on what your school thought is, and also what your preference is. Now, as you can see, I did a lot of weathering. I wanted this to look like it was a PKE that went through hell and back, to make it look like there was chipped paint just about anywhere and everywhere. And I also did semi-gloss, a clear coat and semi-gloss on here, a couple runs. That's what gives it that more of a shiny finish than this one. So, and with it being the 80s, what I did was I actually got a label maker, something that I used for the flux pack. I had extras, so I decided to label it PKE and actually put my name on here. The reason why I did that was, one, if you've ever gone to a Comic-Con, or maybe you're at a convention, you don't want your gear getting mixed up with someone else's. Got my name on it. Nice and clever. Plus, maybe you're at a con, you're at an event, you have an overzealous toddler kid who's holding on to it. Well, doesn't have their name on it, right? There you go. But I did clear coat on the front and on the back. This was during when I was still learning weathering. I will be perfectly honest, I did go a little overzealous on this, but I think it still looks pretty good. I mean, for someone that didn't know jack about weathering, I think I did a fairly decent job. Now, to show you guys a different paint. A different paint scheme that I did on the wands, on the PKE, I should say. And I'm going to show you guys, I'm going to rotate the camera over. You can see a blue proton pack right there. Okay. Now, that spirit pack is my wife's. I did it in the theme of the real Ghostbusters, such as the real Ghostbusters cartoon from the 80s. Now, their PKE meters were, well, they were different style. They were more of a boxy kind of thing. So I don't have the means to 3D print a PKE meter in that fashion. So I took one of these and I did this. Now, this was not my finest work. I didn't do a clear coat on here, which I really should do. It's obviously already got scratches from the paints. Now, what I did was I used the same paint I used on Proton Pack, which was actually actual car paint, auto spray paint. And I'm actually going to leave a link in the description below in case you guys have an interest in this. This is it came out originally like a nice kind of marbly. I barely had enough to do one pass on here. Now, all that I did was I just put painter's tape around this top part, this raised part right here. And then I painted the top, painted the bottom. I actually took this apart and I took the wings out because I made the wings red to go with the Ghostbusters, the real Ghostbusters PKE. So it's got nice, very noticeable red arms. It was a bit of a chore to take it apart because the only red paint I had available to me came out a little bit thick, a little bit clunky. I have to try and find a better red to use. And also, I had to Dremel the space right there. You can see a little unevenness right there because the thicker paint wasn't allowing the arms to come out like they should have. That was because of the thicker paint on plastic, making it a little bit harder for it to come out. So I had to do a little bit of sanding and dremeling, a little bit of filing to make the space big enough so that it can come out. It's got some weathering on here. Now, I do have a clear coat. I'm going to give this a few passes so we can still have this, or maybe I'll touch this up. Who knows? But here's one little way you can go about it. Now, of course, I have the flux pack. I could do a souped up, more DeLorean look to it. I really don't think that would turn out that well because, I mean, Back to the Future's from the 80s. These are from the 80s as well. So I have to rethink that concept. But this just shows you one way you could do it. And of course, again, here's mine. I love the semi-gloss coat on here. Gives a nice little reflective, more reflective finish than this one. I mean, you can see the difference between these two. Pretty clear. Big difference. Semi-gloss, and plus the semi-gloss, any kind of weathering you do, the semi-gloss is going to protect it. So, as you guys, I have mine. I have one for the wife, because this is going to be her PKE. Now I'm going to do some weathering and some alterations on it after New York, but I'm going to show you guys how we can take this off, and also how we can do some other things. On the battery here, battery cover has a lot of your legal jargon, all the copyrights and everything on there. I'm going to show you guys how you can remove that. So, what do you say we get right to it? Okay, so for this, you're going to need a Phillips head screwdriver. Very simple, very basic. You don't want one with too big of a head on it. First thing we're going to do, of course, is take the batteries out. Now, if you have a choice, I always go with magnetic head screwdrivers, okay? It's just always easier, especially if you lose a screw. Maybe you drop it in a bucket or in somewhere that's hard to reach. You use the end of your screwdriver to simply pick it up. You know, maybe it's an extra buck or so, but hey, it saves you in the long run, guys. So now we have the lid off. And let's get the batteries out. Now, of course, they come with very basic, cheap batteries, so my recommendation is, especially if you have props that you're going to be using on the regular, get some rechargeable batteries. It'll save you in the long run, guys. Now, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 screws we need to remove from here, just so we can take this bad boy out. Crazy, right? But it's what we have to do. I've done this so many times now. I haven't done any of the major mods. Like, there are some people who are very good with soldering, very good with electrical, that have actually figured out patterns so that you can actually make this look even more screen accurate and kind of reprogram the LEDs. Yours truly is not one of those people, so we will not be doing any kind of a modification like that, at least not on this video. Who knows, maybe in the future Walmart marks those PKEs down even further. Maybe I'll buy a bunch and we'll use them, because I am going to be doing a trap mod later on this summer, guys, and I hope you join me for that. I know this is not your basic video for the Dimension. A lot of times I do just basic unboxings, quick little review, talking about various items. But actually, this is how the Dimension started off. Mods. Okay. Sometimes it works a little better with maybe a little bit of a finer screwdriver. I don't think I have one of my other ones out here. I'll be right back, guys. Okay, so I found I had a smaller screwdriver. This is going to make the job even better. Or should I say easier, not better. Much smaller Phillips head screwdriver, as you guys can see. You're definitely going to need a lot of Phillips in the future when we do the Ghostbusters trap. Whole lot of screws in that bad boy. Whole lot going on. Oh, I still gotta get these out here. My bad. You're better off using a smaller screwdriver head also to prevent any kind of stripping. You don't want to strip the heads of the screws because that's just going to cause all kinds of chaos. Now, just to show you guys, this lifts right off. Set that over to the side, and this button actually hides a traditional mini switch up and down. Okay. Now this actually houses the wings and also the motor. Just to show you guys. A couple thin wires right there for the motor that go into the LEDs. We're not going to go too much into this, at least not today, guys. Just fits right into place. You can see some knobs here, 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 and here. So we're going to set this off to the side. Now for the fun part. Just to show you guys, we have Phillips right there. Not the greatest quality either. There's a washer holding that in. Now you might be saying, hey Dave, why are you taking that little plastic belt clip off? It seems like it would be a nice little thing to use. You don't have to use a holder if you're using that. Well, here's the thing. One, it is plastic. A very cheap plastic. It's not that big either. You're going to easily break this off at some point in time. Okay? So that's one of the reasons why we're getting rid of it. Obviously, if this sits right here, you know, you're still on an angle here. So by removing this, well, we get it standing, we get it laying on its back a bit more flush. And as you can see right here, this is what I'm talking about. Some people will drill this right out and then use a Dremel to make the hole a little larger. And there's an actual STL file that you can 3D print that will work pretty much as a flush plug. Now it doesn't fit perfectly on there, but that's where a little bit of putty to smooth it out. Once it hardens, it makes this nice little seamless transition with the groove here. That's what a lot of people have done. I have actually not done that yet. I may do that on a future video somewhere down the line. But there we are. Pretty quick, pretty easy right there, right? Let me get the other screw out of here real quick. There we go. So, now that that's done, well, not completely done, we have this little sticker here that we want to get rid of. Now, if you still get a little bit of residue on the back here, a little bit of a rubbing alcohol goes a long way, guys. So, now also, if you notice here, we do have a little bit of text printed out right on here. We want to get rid of that, just like we have all this text right here. We don't want that, guys. Now, just to show you, on my PKE, I got rid of that completely. I mean, if you really look close, you can see some of it, but for the most part, I basically sanded it. I just took regular sandpaper, sanded the top part off, and then sanded this off. I mean, if you really look close, there is still a little bit right there. A little bit, but not much. Compared to this one, there's still a lot more on here. But you can't see it as much here. This was my first PKE. This was my first one. This bad boy is actually a couple years old now. because that was back in 2019, I think. 2019 or 2018. So we're going to put this back on, because really there's nothing more physical that we need to do right now. The battery cover I can do separately. So there we go. Pretty plain and simple. I mean, if I wanted to, I could actually cut this off or sand this down to even make it smoother, but we're not going to do that. This keeps it looking a little bit uniform for right now anyways. I'll be doing it on a future video. We'll explore with more modifying, but this is just something quick and easy. Nice little extra step. There we go. One screw. 2 screws. Now I am going to try and take a little piece of sandpaper and get this little text off, but we don't need to leave this disassembled. As you guys can see, this is pretty quick. The only thing that would make this thing quicker would be electric screwdriver, but we don't need one. Good exercise, good for your hand and eye coordination. There we go. Just 2 more. Guys hanging in there? I hope so. Besides, how many of you out there, when you were a kid, wanted to be a Ghostbuster? I mean, come on. Sometimes stuff happens, and who are you gonna call? There we go. It is back into place. And now, we're gonna pause real quick, and I'll be right back, guys. Okay, so here, a little piece of sandpaper. Now, I only happen to have 150 grit, so I'm going to take a piece. Just a little bit going back and forth all over the lettering. So you guys back down so you can see. Now, some people will just go with the grain. You can just run your thumb right over it to see how smooth you like it. There we go. Guys, a nice good look. Oh, more lettering. Now, obviously, at a later date, I'm gonna sand this up a little bit more, and we'll do an actual clear coat to get that sheen, that little bit of luster, because that's exactly what I did over here, but you can't really tell. Now it looks a little bit dull, a little bit worn, but like I said, the clear coat's going to take care of that. And then it's a matter of repeating that process on the lid. Is this the proper way to sand it? No. It's my way to sand it. Now, this is also the same method I use on the spirit packs, because they also include a bunch of lettering and writing right on the proton pack itself. And also, you're going to do this on the ghost traps as well. Okay, almost. Now, what you can do is a little bit of rubbing alcohol, wipe it down, hand sanitizer, whatever you have. I mean, hell, you could even have a little dish of water just to wipe it off. As you can see, I wet this and just kind of wipe it off. And again, we got rid of just almost everything. Just going to give it a little bit more. Now, with plastic, there is no with the grain like you have with wood, so you kind of have to fly by the seat of your pants. So there we go. There's a little groove right here. But there we go, no more lettering, no more writing on there. Put the batteries back in, close it back up. Now there are some people that will use grip tape around it to give it more of a worn look, like especially with the Afterlife. I mean, it's okay if this is like this. What I may actually do is, just for New York, I may actually just hit it with a clear coat, a couple passes here, a couple passes there, and that would be perfectly fine. But there we go, we got rid of all of our text, all of our writing on there. And like I said, that's the same method I did on here. But you don't see that dullness like you do on here right now. So, a couple coats of clear should be right as rain. So there we go. Now again, I'm going to try and find a link for the Husky holder. This I swear by, because what we actually use for the suits, got my sandpaper here, is a military style, what they call a pistol belt. Okay, now this is not screen accurate because, well, screen accurate belts usually cut off at about a 40-42 waist. That's unfortunately not going to work for me nor my wife. So we have these inexpensive, Rothco is one of the most popular brands. What's your basic military belts? Leg hose connects onto the back, but you guys really don't need to worry about that. This connects on here, nice and snug. Much better than this little plastic clip hold on to. I'm going to put this on the belt just so you guys can see. One, it's a little hard to get it onto the belt, but once it's on there, it doesn't really hold on that well. It's just a small little piece and it could easily slide right off. This, you really have to work to pull it off. But I like this because it's nice and durable. And like I said, slide it in, twist. Because the way this is designed, this is going to stick halfway out. It's not coming out, guys. Unless it twists, it's not coming out. So it's almost like a safety measure. Okay? Because with the width of this handle, unless it twists, it's not going to come out. See? So twist, it'll come right out. Twist, it's not coming out. So it keeps it nice and secure. The only, like I said, the only downside is the lettering here, but you can apply something there pretty simple. So there we are. And you can keep this in a holster, throw it in your bin, you're good to go. Sorry about that, guys. There's mine. Put that along with all my other gear that I have. Yes, I actually do have a rad meter for radiation. That's an actual real one I got on eBay, believe it or not. So, there we are. Just a quick little tutorial, a little quick way to go ahead and if you get yourself a Spirit or Imagine or Fun PKE that Walmart sells. Just a quick way to get the belt clip right off, do some sanding to get some of that writing off, and also, like I said, just a basic semi-gloss clear coat, couple passes, you're good to go. Now when it comes to spray, I actually picked up a gloss coat, so I might actually try to gloss coat on it. Now, when you're doing sprays, if you're new to painting, you're not that skilled at it, you always want to do straight passes. You don't want to go. You don't want to go off on angles or little waves. You want to go straight for coverage. Now, what I do is I don't do it by hand. I do, but I don't. There's these cheap, inexpensive handles that actually click onto your spray can, so it's easier on your hand, because otherwise you're holding it like this and you've got to press down on there with your one finger to do your passes. It can be a little uncomfortable at times, guys. Okay, so I have these cheap plastic handles. Basically, it's a handle with a trigger mechanism, and it simply clamps onto this. Make sure your nozzle is straight, because there's a little opening that so you don't get it spraying all over the place, and it allows you to do nice even glides and passes, whether it's up, down, left, right. I mean, to me that's always been a tried and true method, at least for some of my results. Do have a nice gloss black that I could actually do on there, but I'm saving this for the trap. We're going to experiment with the trap with a few different painting techniques. I'm going to go with gloss and see how that goes. I might do flat black first, but we'll see. But there we are. Just a nice little quick video. Hope you guys liked it. You know, something different. I know usually it's all about the unboxings. Oh, and by the way, I got something exciting coming through the pipeline. There's a lot of new cool things coming out. Your boy already got his hands on Bug-Eye Ghost, and I also have Fearsome Flush coming my way, and of course later on this summer they're going to be releasing the Ecto 1, and I actually have and I have not just one but two on pre-order, so we'll see what happens. And actually Walmart actually did good on this one. They sent it in a box. There was no packaging, no, foam, nothing to really hold it in place. But unlike some of their shipping, this wasn't bent up. It wasn't torn up like a lot of people. I've actually seen people posting online where these were sent out in just shipping bags. I mean, it's a big problem with a lot of places, because you got a lot of people who are buying these vintage reissues because they want it for their collections. They want the card, as we call it, they want the card to be intact, but that doesn't always happen. So it's a shame. It's a thing, but hopefully they'll get better in the future. So until next time, This is your boy Dave saying